Bird 232, right heading 235, and report localizer established runway 27 left, Bird 232.
Hello everybody and welcome back again to another video. Today we're doing the Aerosoft CRJ FMS setup and startup procedures. Although I'm still trying to read through the manual and get very familiar with this aircraft when it comes to the tricky part of it, and that is the descent. So when you are about to descent, you will have to do all the calculations and try to depend on yourself and think ahead of the aircraft in terms of actually knowing exactly where and when to be. So that's a little bit tricky, but I'm almost done now, 3 flights with good results. So today we're gonna start with the startup procedure and FMS familiarization, kinda, and get going from that. So without further ado, let's get started. So if we get started here, I'm gonna dive in here and select the ground surfaces, switch on the ground power unit, and you have to have your park and brake set in order to have those. So I'm gonna save. I don't think we need in this page. Head to options. I'm gonna show you something else that is almost necessary to do. So battery master on, DC surface on, and ground power unit. So that is in use. We're gonna have some nav light, logo light going on. Arm the emergency light and head down here. Put the irises to nav. And I'm gonna show you what you guys need to do. So this is usually goes into kilograms and single Q, like this. This has actually been on the Boeings for so long until they came up with an update to update them to the dual, or which is the cross basically, which is way better than the single Q. And for the purpose of using the PFPX on inbounds, today we're gonna have the weights with bounds. So with that is done, let's go ahead and head over to the overhead panel to explain some stuff in here. So all the generators switches usually will be auto. So any time that we are actually switching either the APU or the engines, those will be ready to go. For the fuel boost pumps, usually we'll have the right and left boost pumps for the engine start, and before takeoff we'll have the X flow auto override. So this one here. Bleed air, we're gonna have it at normal. We can select if we want it from the left or from the right if we have any malfunctions. Bleed valves are auto. The normal position for this one is open, and it only works, this is the isolation valve by the way, it only works if we switch to manual. So hence the kind of line there. So you need to have it to open just in case when we switch to manual it will be ready to go. So now is auto, this thing does not matter which position is at. So APU panel, this is will actually power the APU or the FADIC basically if this APU have one, but this will energize the power on the APU and start the fuel going on. So whenever we have this switched on or clicked, because it does not have any lights on it for the startup procedure. So once you click the doors will go open for the APU and let their power will go, energize it, fuel will flow, and then we're gonna start it. So it's a little bit different than the other aircrafts. For the ignition, so we'll have start, stop for each engines, and we have continuous for the ignition. Hydraulics, I'm gonna squeeze a little bit more. So we have three systems here, and you probably guessed it. So 1 and 2 are for engines, hydraulic driven pumps. So whenever we switch them to on and auto, this is actually the normal positions. So before we go in to start the engines, we'll have those at auto. So once the engine gets pulled up and it's good and running, those will be switched on automatically. So 3 and 3B, 3A is actually coming on from the AC there. So whenever we have ground power unit or the APU running, we can have hydraulic using the 3A. Hence we only have off or on. We don't have auto on it. So hydraulic 3B is actually a backup and for redundancy, and we'll have it at auto with the rest of the guys there. So cabin pressure, you probably not going to mess with any of those other things, especially that we don't have any failure system on this aircraft. So what we need to do is basically on the before takeoff, or the start procedure here, is to have our landing elevation is set for our takeoff airport, just in case we needed to come back again. And upon the descent, we have to have it set to the approach airport. So it's a little bit tricky to get it shown. So we will have this page kinda here and adjust it. So not ideal if you are doing a virtual cockpit, but this is what you have to go through. So air conditioning, we'll have recirculation fan to on. Packs, we don't have the ABU running, but since it says they are off, they are latched off. So we can switch them on so many times, it's still going to be off. Manual mode, we're not using any of that. We can switch the air conditioning on the aft cargo there. Cabin and cockpit controller, basically. Anti-ice will not be using any anti-ice. We're approximately 28 degrees. I'm not sure exactly. We are 20 degrees Celsius, so we're at Buffalo. So we don't need those for sure today. For the windshield, we can switch those to low to kind of prevent the condensation from going on. The probes, will have them later on after we start our engines. We need those to be set on. So let's go ahead and put some seatbelt sign and no smoking signs too. With that being said, let's head to the down there. So this is our kind of radio panel here. So you'll have your COM selection. So whenever you want to do something else and you're good with it, you have to click it again to kind of move it to the other side. It's a little bit different. For the ATC now, we're seeing it set as ATC 1200 standby. We'll go later on and change it. Weather radar, if you wanna set it to weather, and here this is for system 1 and system 2. We'll have them now for off. RTU, radio control unit, radio tuning unit. Whenever we have those malfunctioning, we can just inhibit the one that is malfunctioning. This is for the standby. So if we have it at COM, it will show exactly the same number that here, and for nav and vice versa. So that is set. ATC selection, as you might guys see here, standby. So if we switch to 1, it says ATC number 1. since we have the hydraulics on, so we can go ahead and try to pull that one in here. So since we have hydraulics, let me show you guys. So as you might see here, 3A, if we go in here and switch it, let me pull that. So this is our 3 systems, and you can see each system controls what. So whenever we energize each system, those will be supplied with hydraulic power. So let's go 3A, and you can see we have 3000 psi, and we are supplying rudder, elevator, and other ground spoilers, landing gear, nose wheel steering. So that is good. Gonna pull this one in here just to show you guys that since we have hydraulics, we can go ahead and engage the stab trim, Mach trim, and get those out of the way. Yaw damper can go on, and that will take it off. With that being done, we can switch back to here, disarm the nose wheel steering, because we're gonna use the pushback vehicles, and we don't want to risk damaging the nose wheel steering basically. So stall PTCT, we have it on. Nav source, we have it set up to whatever you want. So FMS 1, you can do VORs, DMEs. So FMS 1 for us, here you can change the range and add the bearing for the VORs. So here we have our minimums and our parametric pressure basically. And I think we are at 1012, we need to switch that. So 29er, 89er. And here is the revisionary panel for the displays in case of a malfunction and display there. Cockpit voice recorder is down there. Anti-skid will be armed. Other than that, the thrust reversers need to be armed on takeoff and on landing. Okay, so what you guys kinda going to see whenever we are going to start the engines, it's a little bit different from the other aircraft because now we have kinda more one more detent that is for the shut off. So we're going to look at that later on. For the time being, I think we are good to go ahead and start our APU and get the FMS ready and set up. So first click. So let's go status or stats. So we are going here. Start. So APU shuttle valve is getting opened by this button here, and once we hit the start, APU start will eliminate it, and that is good to go. So we're gonna wait for it to reach 100%. That is all good. We can switch the packs to on, and we probably I'm gonna go ahead and arm my left and right fuel boost pump. We are going to have the Exaflow auto override on for the takeoff, and that is almost done in here. We can do a lot of other system tests, just to show you, for example, if we hit the ice detection there tests, we'll have ice cautionary message there and ADS heat test okay. I mean, you guys can go ahead and scroll through the checklist on the Dave there, and it will guide you through every bit of check that you need to do. So for the FMS initialization here, and this is, by the way, the CRJ 700, so a little bit short. We're going today from Kilo Bravo Uniform Foxtrot, so this is Buffalo, to Gate 18, and we're gonna take that, set it as our position. For the flight plan, we're going to do Kilo Bravo Uniform Foxtrot, and our destination is Kilo India Alpha Delta, which is Washington. For our alternate, today we will do Kilo Juliet Yankee Oscar. Original runway will take 23, and flight number will be UA 854. That is just some random numbers and letters there. So we're gonna execute that. For the performance initialization, we'll have to do the CRJ manager there, and we can go ahead and scroll to payload and fuel and select our passenger number there, cargo, and fuel. So for example, we're taking 88 passengers today. Oh, this is the 900 version, sorry guys. So the 700 will take in 62. For the cargo, we are doing 1,700. And for the fuel, will be 6,500. And by the way, guys, this is actually released 2 days ago, and I'm already at 1.0.3, I believe. So 3 hot fixes since then, and I have actually been informed earlier that there is a 1.0.04. So I'm trying to keep up with those hot fixes, but insane to actually spend all those years in development only to have 4 hot fixes in 2 days. Anyway, so with that being said, we can go ahead and click set payload and fuel. So with that is done, we can go here and set our passenger number. Cargo, we're doing 1,765 on the fuel. Cruising altitude today will be 340. For our alternate cruising altitude will be 1400. 0 fuel weight and execute. And here's one tricky thing I didn't like, honestly. I might actually have to dig more for it. I couldn't find any trim setup for this aircraft, because if we go here, so V1, and you can see them there, V2, so all of that is done, but for the trim I had to go to the CRJ manager and see exactly how much trim that I had to put. So bear that on mind and try to have the CRJ manager trying to figure out the trim setting for you guys. So that is all good. I'm gonna go ahead again to the FMS there. Our departure runway will be 23, so that is done. And for our route, it's going to be Bravo Foxtrot Delta Echo Tango Golf Papa Sierra Bravo, and that's about it. So if we hit arrivals at Washington there and go for the ILS runway 1 center there, and next page to Maple 2, we're doing the transition at Papa Sierra Bravo and execute. We can go ahead and yeah, we'll just take that and remove any discontinuity there. So that's what I was talking about for you guys. It's a little bit tricky when it comes to those numbers. I mean the altitude there. So the aircraft will not follow these numbers, and you have to follow them manually. I mean, you guys probably going to see also that on cruise we will lose speed or gain speed over the course of our climb period, and you have to keep up with the throttles. So there's no auto throttle, and you have to kind of manage the VNAV and think ahead of the aircraft way above its time. So that is done, and I'm happy about. Let's get started and call for the pushback and start our engines. So if we scroll up here, I'm gonna call GSX and request our pushback and departure there. FedEx will be fine. It's gonna be a straight pushback there. So you guys can see our route here. So I'm gonna jump the overhead panel there. Our fuel boost pumps are on. Beacon light can come on. Okay, this is too low. We're gonna start the prop there after the prop heat after our engines get started. Okay, so let's go ahead and disconnect our GPU. So go to the Dave ground surface unit and switch that to off and take it away. So APU is now supporting our aircraft with power. So release parking brake. So start at 12. So we need to go ahead to the overhead panel. We're gonna start engine number 1 or 2, it doesn't matter. So we're waiting for that 20% then too. And here we go. So runway today will be 230. And our cruising altitude will be 340. So I honestly hate the sounds there, guys. I don't know about you. The engines are not loud enough for me. So maybe this is the real thing. I'm not sure. I mean, I have been on board the CRJs and they are loud as hell. But with that being said, I'm gonna start engine number 2. Wait for the 20% on the N2. So we got that going. Set park and brake. And here's your park and brake, by the way, guys. So as wheel steering can come to armed position. Engines are now providing the aircraft with power, so we can go ahead and switch the APU to off. We should have the hydraulics to autos and have our prop heats to on. And for today's, we don't need any other anti-ice. So you're now will be taking the trim setting from the CRJ manager. So let me just set up my FCU IPC there. So you probably need the CRJ manager to kind of see the trim settings and set your flaps to flaps 8. So after start, you're gonna go ahead and set the X-Flow auto override to on, then off, and ignition anti-ice is good to go. Park and brake, seat belts, no smoking. So we have no caution lights or any advisory messages besides the seat belts and no smoking light. So with that's been done, we're gonna go ahead and arm the thrust reversers, and there you guys have it, the FMS initialization and a startup procedure for the Aerosoft CRJ. And please stay tuned for the full flight we're probably going to do in the next few days, featuring all the aircraft's features there and systems. So please, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video. Take care.